Michael here from GRNDXAGENCY. So we help indie musicians, producers and record label owners attract, grow and monetize their music careers using paid music marketing. So today what I wanted to talk to you guys about is 3 components that a lot of indie musicians and producers need to start considering. So the first point that I'm going to address is your website. So what I'm talking about here is most independent musicians barely have a website. Producers sometimes have a website, but a key component of having a website, and the reason why this is key, is because what it does for you is it allows you to have ownership. So if you're selling beats, you can host the beats on your website and you don't have to pay any middleman in regards to someone purchases your beat. And if you're a musician, it's also a way of generating traffic that you own the rights to. So for example, if you put your music out on any of these major platforms such as the Grime Dailies, the SBTVs, the Hip Hop DXs, all of these major platforms that support your music, you're giving them the rights to your data. So in marketing terms, there's organic and there's paid traffic. So the organic traffic is when someone's literally searching you up online and trying to find your music. And if you put your music up on these massive platforms, what happens is when they're searching you up on Google's search engine, they go to their website to find your content, and that means you lose out on the organic traffic. And the reason why this is key is if you had your own website that you own the rights to, what ends up happening is all of that organic traffic, so the people visiting, you get to store that on the back end. So on your website, when you start dealing with Google Analytics and you start dealing with Facebook or Instagram advertising, YouTube advertising, all of these data points now become key because they allow you to get a better insight on who is coming to, your webpage. What their age group is, what country they're from, what sort of profession they're in. This is all of the data that you need to kind of build a better picture of who your ideal fan base is. This is why having a website is something that is highly key, because it provides you with 1, ownership, 2, it allows you to differentiate between your paid and organic traffic, and it allows you to cut out the middleman in regards to not having to pay them to promote your stuff. You have 100% retainership of that. This is why having a website as an indie musician is something that you should highly consider. And if you already do have a website, what you need to start doing is building key assets around that, and this is something that I'm going to touch upon later on in this video. But when you do have a website, it means that you have full ownership. You're not relying on a third-party platform to support your music. It means anyone that wants to find you or discover your music or your beats has to go directly through the channels that you own. So you're not leasing any of your creativity on someone else's platform where they're able to store your data. You retain that ownership. When people are purchasing your stuff, they don't have to go through no third party, they come directly through you. So if you're using a payment provider such as, PayPal or Stripe, for example, when people are coming to pay for your stuff, they're paying directly through your website. They're not going to someone else's website. So if you're advertising, this is a little bit far-fetched. I'm speaking in future tense, but if you understand marketing, you know that you can do retargeting audiences. So if someone's going to purchase your merchandise, what happens is they may add to basket, and if they don't purchase, what happens is you can then send them retargeting ads because you own that website. So you can then look at people that have visited for the last 14 days, 7 days, the last 360 days, and you can retarget people based on their behavioral patterns if you own the website. And these are all of the things that you don't have, the privilege of doing if you've given someone else the ownership to your website. If you're promoting your creativity, your music, your latest tracks on their website, you don't have all of the key data. You need to find out better who your fans are, your core fans are, and secondly, you don't have ownership of the key data to perform advertising such as custom audiences or retargeting. So this is why it's key for you to start thinking about owning your website. And if you do own your website, you need to start really focusing on the other elements that I'm going to mention. So there's 2 more elements that I'm going to talk about. So the next element that I'm going to be talking about is email marketing. And you may be thinking, oh, I have that set up already. So most indie musicians and producers, when it comes to email marketing, really what they have is just a newsletter. And what they do with this is every once in a while they may tell people to subscribe so they can stay up to date with the latest content releases that they put out there. But what I would suggest you start doing is really start looking at email marketing service providers. Off the top of my head, I'm going to recommend you one such as ConvertKit. If you're not using ConvertKit, you may have heard of MailChimp. I'm going to leave the link in the description section, so you're going to be able to access these platforms. But the reason why email marketing is key is because let's say for instance, Facebook was to go away tomorrow, Instagram was to go away tomorrow, YouTube was to go away tomorrow. How would you intend on reaching your core fan base? That means you have an audience that you've built up that you could potentially lose in seconds. And this is really and truly why I'm encouraging a lot of indie musicians and producers to start really looking at owning their audience. And what I mean by that is, if you have an email list, it means you own the direct relationship with your fan base and you own that data. So you can have direct communication with them. So if you're dropping a new track, you can email them. If you want to find out more about your fan base, like where they're from, what sort of content they really appreciate from you, or if you just want to have general conversations with them so you can build a stronger relationship, which in the long run is going to benefit you. If you own that email list, that means you have a direct line of communication. You don't have to rely on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube. You have their email address. It's pretty much like a phone number that you have, that you can take with you anywhere you want, because you have that list stored. And that's why I really encourage a lot of indie musicians to really start thinking about, and producers start thinking about email marketing. So I would advise you guys to start getting set up and using your email list as something that you just grow and grow and grow. So when it comes down to even monetizing your music, having an email list is key, because imagine if you have 100 people and they all paid you £1 or $1, that's £100 on $100. And imagine if that turns into £2 or $2 or $5 or £5. This is how you can start really developing a proper relationship with people on your email list, where they start helping you live your life as an independent creative, because you've built strong relationships with them and you have direct lines of communication with them as well. So stop looking at your email marketing list as something that's just something you do on an odd occasion when you're announcing the latest releases, or you just want to contact them through email on an odd occasion. Your email marketing list, anyone that's in marketing understands that email marketing, especially for indie musicians and producers, is key, because it's the way that you can build relationships that you own. If you've been listening carefully, you notice that I keep on mentioning ownership and having true ownership of all of the data that you're building, whether that's your website or whether that's your email marketing list. You having ownership of this gives you an advantage, because it gives you that direct line of communication and direct ownership, so that you can get the full end profitability off of all of these platforms. So when it comes to email marketing, the two platforms that I would suggest you start with, I'm going to leave links in the description for you to check it out, is ConvertKit or MailChimp, but I would highly suggest you go with ConvertKit. The next topic I'm going to be discussing is revenue streams. So if you're an indie musician or producer, I'm sure you're going to want to know how you can increase the amount of money that's coming in your bank account, because your main aim is to do this full time, and the only way you can do that is if you have multiple avenues of generating revenue. One of the things that I would highly suggest you start looking at is your value points. And what I mean by that is, what value do you provide to your audience? What are things that you can provide that are going to add to the experience that your fans are longing for? So a quick example of this may be, for example, merchandise. If you built a strong brand and your fan base really engages with your content across social media, why not start getting into merchandise? And then beyond merchandise, you can start thinking of exclusive experiences. So all of the catalog of work that you've been producing, why not turn that into bundles? So maybe if they purchase your latest song release, they get an extra bundle, a hardcore CD signed by you, or a poster signed by you, with a CD of your latest track that that you don't have a lot of copies of this, limited editions, and you can sell them for £50, $60, it's up to you. But you need to start thinking of these methods. Another way that you can develop revenue is teaching your information. What do you know that tongue twister there, but what do you know that up and coming musicians and producers are going to want to learn, and you can be the person that teaches them that. So it's teaching them information that you already know and that comes easy to you. If you're creative, you're already gonna put in your 10,000 hours of education and learning. So there's some things that are just easy to you. Why not, teach this information? What you can use as a platform to sell this in the course form is a platform called Thinkific. I'm also gonna leave, the link to this in the description section. But it's an easy way that a lot of indie musicians and producers fail to realize that they could literally be getting their information in their mind out there and digitizing it and getting paid to do that. And that's an extra revenue stream. Creating bundles, for the music that you already have sitting there and turning that into hardcore CDs or vinyls or just other forms of recorded material that your fan base is going to appreciate is another way that you can kind of increase the amount of income that is coming in for you. Also, one of the most important ones is making sure that you consider merchandise. Merchandise is a traditional method that musicians have been using for donkey years, but it's something that you have to start considering if you've built a strong brand. Even if it's 10 people that purchase a t-shirt at £25 a piece or $25 a piece, that's going to be enough money for you to be able to, live off, or you to be able to invest back into your indie music. Merchandise is just one of the many traditional ways that indie musicians and producers can make sure they're increasing their revenue streams. If the pandemic taught you one thing, it should have taught you that you can't rely on live performances or stream money anymore. You need to make sure you're diversifying the ways at which you earn money as an indie musician or producer. And this is what we're teaching you. We're telling you to go back to the drawing board and start looking at traditional ways, such as creating assets and bundling them together, and also looking at merchandise as a traditional way of earning money. It's been used for ages. If you haven't started adopting it, you should definitely consider that after this video. What we're really trying to do is help you understand how key ownership is and how all of the elements that I've mentioned, such as email marketing, having your own website, and also ways that you can generate revenue, all kind of lock in and tie in with each other. So for example, if you have merchandise, that merchandise is likely to be displayed on your website that you own. And if you need to message people based on new product releases, what you're going to do, you're going to hit up your email list. So this is why we're trying to get you in the mind frame and mindset of increasing your revenue streams by building assets that are placed on your website, and also having direct communication with the people that are going to buy it, which is your core fan base. So if you're doing all of the points that I've mentioned in this video, you're definitely going to be in a better position as an indie and have a solid infrastructure that is going to allow you to succeed from today onwards. One thing I would ask you guys to do that are watching this video, if you have any questions, or you want to share what you're doing on your website, or how you're building your email list, or presently how you're generating money for your indie career, please do that in the comment section. Make sure you like this video, you comment below, and you share this with any indie musician or producer or anyone in the music business that you feel needs to hear this message. As always, it's Michael from GRNDXAGENCY, and hope to see you on the next video.